Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about alcoholism touching us in ways that maybe we just don't even know. I ran across a couple social media posts yesterday that led me to find out that two of my high school friends, actually friends that I was friends with since elementary school, um, have both been impacted by the disease of alcoholism in two different ways. One announced that she was brave enough to post that she was celebrating 1,000 days of sobriety, which I was super excited. Not because she is a drunk like me, but excited that she found a solution for herself. And then another one of my friends starting to speak out loud about the fact that she was married to an alcoholic, and it was a very difficult 5 years of marriage. And she had to make the hardest decision of her life, which was to leave. And so I got to listen to about 10 minutes of her story. She's starting a podcast, and it was I felt so much pain for her, yet I felt so much hope for her because she found the path that led her to where she is now and has found the lessons in that experience. And I found out through that 10 minutes that she went to Al-Anon and went for quite some time, sat and didn't share because this disease is something that, as much as it is out in the open now, a lot of people talk about it. When it impacts you, it's difficult to talk about it. It elicits so much deep pain that it's so difficult to put it into words. And I think that there's a lot of shame and guilt and confusion that is associated with it on either side. If you are the recovering or not yet recovering alcoholic, or if you are a family member. So alcoholism it touches us more, touches more lives than I think we ever imagined, than I ever imagined. And years ago, when I was actively drinking, and, we would joke around with, oh, well, you're just an alcoholic. Oh, I'm probably an alcoholic, and it was a joke. Alcoholic to me was somebody who was homeless and they always had a liquor bottle. You have to drink liquor if you're an alcoholic. That's what I thought. You sleep on a park bench in DC and you've got liquor in a paper bag, just like the movies. That's what I thought an alcoholic was. But alcoholism is an equal opportunity disorder, and that is the reality of the disease. When I go into my meetings, I look at all the faces in there, and sure, some people in the meetings look like they could be an alcoholic. They almost start just, I don't know, the way that they carry themselves, it just screams like, yeah, I can see that you were probably an alcoholic. And I can say that in jest now because these are my friends, and then there's a lot of people who come in there that are high achieving professionals, CEOs, that are finishing deals. There's a lot of salespeople who, and these executives who their life kind of revolves around going out for drinks after work, getting some vodka tonics, that's where you do business deals. You do it over a beer or a whatever. I can't think of any other drink. I was gonna throw out like some knowledge, some alcohol knowledge there, but it's been a while now, and I can't even remember mixed drinks, martinis. No, I don't think CEOs do business deals over martinis. I'm not sure. Anyway, you know what I mean? Like these high achieving professionals. Sometimes they have a little secret. Um, Sometimes they don't even know that they have surpassed the point of no return. Alcoholics can be stay-at-home parents. I definitely was spiraling during the time that I was working at home, and wine o'clock got earlier and earlier during the day. And I was a professional disguiser. Um, I did not take care of myself to the point where eventually I guess you could tell that I wasn't taking care of myself. I couldn't see it because I look at myself every day. But over time, um, there's a look, the skin starts losing its color, and the eyes are either really watery all the time or bloodshot. There's like different characteristics of an alcoholic that I can see now. When I see people pass through the sobriety meetings, I see it. Um, for me, it was like all of those things, but also like my hair was um, just unhealthy. It was like thinning and breaking, and my nails started being really thin and breaking. I was thinning and breaking, if you will. So staying at home and drinking, yeah, that's lots of alcoholics experience that as well. I didn't know that people who were teenagers or college students got sober at that age, but I have been introduced to many over the past years who come in early, who maybe experienced something really terrible in their early life, and it happened when they were drinking. And as much as our culture normalizes drinking at that age as like a rite of passage, it can be devastating for some folks' experiences. And I, gosh, I experienced a lot of terrible stuff too, but it could have been a lot worse for sure. There are a lot of older adults and retirees who start turning to alcohol for fending off loneliness, for pain management. And there is this unnoticed spiral that often occurs. I have met several retirees whose spouses have passed away, and that's when they begin drinking to deal with the emotional pain management. Um, Faith communities, as much as I hate to admit it, there are lots of folks who, no matter how far they lean into their faith, their disease of alcoholism overrides that. And it's not alcoholism. What that shows me is that alcoholism is not a sign of being a bad person. It's a disease, period. And and it goes across through healthcare workers as well, people who are 100% aware of the impacts of alcohol on the body. It doesn't keep the disease away. It's kind of like I used to have a was it an ear, nose, and throat guy? No, that was a different person. It was a dermatologist, I believe. It was a dermatologist, and he would, in between appointments, he would go outside and smoke. He would put on this big, gigantic hat. If my mother, if you're listening, you know who I'm talking about. He would put on this big, gigantic hat and he would go outside and smoke a cigarette. Even doctors are not immune to addiction, so it is it does not pick and choose. It does not see color. It does not see religion. It does not see anything other than a vessel to live in. The ripple effects of drinking, it affects family systems, um, anywhere from being the enabler to leaving out our children, not giving them the attention that they so much deserve because we unknowingly have this self-centered mindset. And I was completely unaware of it. I felt like I was the perfect mom. My kids still say that I was a wonderful mom, but I could have been better. I could have been better if I could have put down the drink, but I couldn't. I had the disease. There is an impact on workplace productivity and connection, relationships in the workplace, absenteeism. There are safety risks if you are in an industry of something with a manual kind of labor. But I've run across lots of folks in the workplace who also had the disease. And what I saw firsthand was one of my coworkers, sorry, Autumn's barking at I think maybe my husband getting home. I'm not sure. But what I saw in my coworker was that he kept falling asleep in all of the meetings. And I remember presenting once and I was so nervous to present. That was something that I was working on getting better at. But I was looking around the room, trying to make my eye contact. I'm working the room and I'm looking at this guy and he's asleep. Um, and it just was, I don't know. I never imagined that he was an alcoholic. I just thought this guy needs to sleep more. This guy needs to go to bed earlier. But it was actually a red flag, and I should have seen that. I shouldn't have seen that. I I now know that it's something to look out for. That maybe the person does have a hard time falling asleep, going to sleep at night, or has something else going on in their private life that they're not getting the sleep that they need. But that's not what was happening with this person. So I saw it firsthand. I've seen it a couple times with coworkers firsthand in my career. Um, and then other effects of the drinker is, all those ER visits. I personally did not go to the ER ever during my stint of drinking. I think there was one time I should have gone to the ER, and that was when I was in college. I think I had alcohol poisoning from tequila, but I have definitely interacted with lots of folks that have regular ER visits before they end up quitting drinking. DUIs, that speaks for themselves. I got pulled over and I should have had a DUI, but I was able to get a lawyer and do all the things that I needed to do that were recommended by the courts, and I ended up with a reckless driving. But I should have had multiple DUIs because drinking and driving was a hobby of mine. And then unfortunately there's domestic violence, either physical or mental abuse is a real problem. And it's so hard to look at somebody that you love and have them treat you in a way that's disrespectful, and to just be like, well, I'm not going to put up with this and I'm just going to leave. It's not that easy. I get it. Um, but these are all the tremendous impacts of not only to the alcoholic herself, but also to the family and friends of the alcoholic. So some of the myths that I hear, and I have a book that I've mentioned a lot of times, but and I always forget the name of the book, but the subtitle of it is like the myths of alcoholism or something like that. And some of these things are that the myth is alcoholics just lack willpower. And this is one that I heard personally from a lot of people. Just quit, just stop. Why can't you just put it down? Just don't drink today. Willpower alone cannot undo alcoholism. It just can't. And so how are you not drinking today, Rachel? It's not willpower, I can tell you that. I am not drinking because I'm the strongest person you've ever met. I'm not drinking because I have methodically and consistently shown up and worked a program that is meant for alcoholics, that walks you through looking at your disease, understanding that it's a disease, and then starting to look at your relationship with a higher power, with your family and friends, with your work, looking at your own defects of character. What are the underlying feelings of shame and guilt that I'm trying to numb? What are the fears that I'm trying to numb by drinking? And this program has not only helped me not pick up a drink, but I am just absolutely a completely different person than I was when I was drinking. And my mom can vouch for me. She even said that a couple months ago. And as much as it feels like a little painful to hear that, to hear my mom say, you're a different person than you were before, um, it makes me feel like I wish I was this person the whole time, because I could have been a better daughter. I could have been a better friend and a better mother. Alcohol hijacks our brain chemistry. Willpower is not the problem. And another myth is, if the alcoholic had more to lose, they would stop drinking. And that is also a myth, because some people lose absolutely everything and they still can't stop. Some people end up losing their lives because they can't stop, because the disease of alcoholism is progressive and fatal. Recovery is rare, is another myth. Although it isn't simple, millions of people are in long term recovery. And what helps me stay sober is knowing that, is going to meetings and talking with people who have twice the length of my sobriety, people who have 5 times the length of my sobriety. It shows me that I can live life this way and I can be happy. I can be happy, sober, and free. Another myth about alcoholism is that treatment is one size fits all, and I don't agree with that. I personally go to AA, and I personally went to see an addiction therapist for 2 years. And I go to my AA meetings, two of them every morning. And I have decided to recover out loud. I went to a medical detox. I went to therapy. I get peer support. I have chosen a path of spirituality and new, hot off the press, I am leaning into a faith and learning more about that. I also take a medication that I was given in detox. I still take it because it helps me go to sleep and fall asleep at night. So that is my journey. That's what works for me. I also take anxiety and depression medication as well. Um, and that's what works for me, but not everybody has to do that. And that's why when you get into the program and you start meeting people, you run across people that are like you, people that you can relate to. And that's when you can start trying to figure out what is the path that's correct for you. Um, there is quite a difference between white knuckling abstinence and actually rebuilding emotional regulation and self-worth and being more self-aware. I talked about that today. I was in a vestibular recovery for those who had a stroke and traumatic brain injury. And that's what I was talking about. I said that, I've always liked myself, but it wasn't until I got into sobriety and even more so doubled down when I got into stroke recovery that I needed to really put my head down and start becoming my own best friend and not being concerned about knowing, I always talk about like receive help, make sure that you're always being of service to others and you're always open and willing to receive help yourself. But there's a lot of time, right? Most of the time that we are by ourselves. And it's at those times that I'm by myself that I want to feel super comforted by me and being very mindful of what my emotions are, what's my spiritual fitness, what would be best for me right now, a nap or taking a walk or going to a support group. Like I really need to check in with myself and understand what's going on between my ears in order to provide myself with the right support that I need. And not being sober is not just not picking up a drink. And white knuckling abstinence, I've tried that. I've tried that and it was miserable. And I don't ever want to do that again. I need this deeper sense of sobriety, emotional sobriety. So, I think that what I really wanted to do today is just spread awareness. Just talk about it, say it out loud. I wish if I was in the perfect world, I wish people would just say how they've been affected by alcoholism because it's everywhere. It's all around us. And folks who end up walking into Al-Anon because the family needs to be educated about what's going on with their loved one, they are starting the journey of education and understanding what they can do to not enable the alcoholic and provide love, maybe even from a distance. But it absolutely touches us all, this disease. And it may be touching you right now and you don't even know it. So that's really why I wanted to bring it up today. Alcoholism is not just the problem of the person who can't put down the drink. It is woven through every zip code and every tax bracket in this world. And awareness is the first step towards trying to save people. You know, only the drinker can save themselves. But if we are armed with the right tools, that we can either stand back when we need to stand back or move in when we need to move in. We only know that by spreading awareness and talking about it out loud. So that's what I have for you today. Alcoholism wears many disguises. It can wear a suit, it can wear yoga pants, it can wear varsity jackets, and it's important to understand that when I'm looking at somebody and they're having a bad day, get out of self and understand that there might be something very, very, very deep going on there. And it's not like I'm going to approach everybody and say, "Hey, are you an alcoholic?" But what it gives me is empathy for other people as I navigate through this crazy world of people, you know. Anyway, that's what I've got today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.